Hello and welcome to our very first Team Alpha podcast. My name is James Watling, former professional athlete and fighter, founder and head coach of Team Alpha. This podcast is a focus on all things that improve the human spirit with an emphasis on sports and the martial arts. With that being said, our first guest is a former unlicensed boxer with a 14-0 record with 12 knockouts, who also holds a blue belt in power kickboxing. He turned professional and had his first bout, which he won on the 29th of February at the Eagles Basketball Arena. He now stands at 1-0 in the professional ranks with his next bout on October the 17th at the Utilitaire Arena. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse my pronunciation of, I'm not going to try and say it again. Ladies and gentlemen, the King of the North himself, Mr. Matthew McCallum. Good to have you in.
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you.
How you
should
doing?
Just say Metro Radio Arena.
I should.
I still do.
Well, when you sent me the bio, you sent that, and I just wrote it down without thinking that I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. You know,
it's ridiculous. No one even seems to know where that is when you say that. I just say Metro Radio.
Metro Arena.
Or if you're really old school, the Telly West.
The Telly West Arena.
I think that's what it was in the 90s. I think, wasn't it?
Possibly, yeah. I remember taking my kids to go and see the Tweenies live and Bear in the Big Blue House, and
awesome.
I think so that was and obviously
I think I've seen Disney on Ice there.
Well, there you go. You see, and obviously various MMA fights and boxing fights as well. Well, just before we get into the I don't want to say interview, the conversation. Just to apologise, we were originally intending to go live tonight, live stream. I have my podcast chat with me, Callum, who's very graciously running this cast for us. But unfortunately, I'll not name the company, but the internet speed was not up to scratch, even with an Ethernet cable. So we've had to pre-record tonight's podcast with the intention that in the future we will look to go live. However, we will be streaming this tomorrow evening, which will be the evening you'll be listening to it, which will be Saturday evening to be specified time. So we're in Studio 54 in the centre of Jesmond, which is where we are based, and it's the the city base for Team Alpha. We have a studio and training facility here. We run classes and one-to-ones, and it's also the base of one of our sponsors, Aim Leisure. We have three main sponsors tonight, which I'll be interjecting throughout the podcast with the information about those three sponsors. And we also each podcast will also have a guest sponsor, so I'll be mentioning them as well. So Matthew, thank you for coming in. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
My absolute pleasure. I feel great. I feel fantastic.
Good.
What about yourself? How do you feel?
Not too bad. Yeah, pretty good. Well, this, as I say, this is our first Team Alpha podcast, and I thought, who better to lead the very first guest on the very first podcast than the King of the North. So just on that, that's obviously your fight name. So just to give you a little bit of background, and obviously, you know, I'm going to defer to you on your own background, but you boxed. You began to train with me at a reasonably young age. That's one of the questions, and you boxed under Team Alpha in a sense on the unlicensed circuit. You managed to which is incredible, an undefeated record. You were known for your from my perspective, for your strength, your power, your heart, your fitness, your conditioning, and there's very few people who could match you on that at that level. And then obviously you chose to go professional. So what I've done is so I've known you for about a decade now. Is it close to a decade?
Definitely. I think it started back in school, didn't it?
I think that
when you used to come in and train, you were training, and then obviously I started training when I was 18. But being a daft 18-year-old, I didn't really stick with it for long. I was too busy drinking and partying, whatever. And then I got back into it when I was about 22, 23, and just stuck with it completely since then. Yeah, dedicated.
It's interesting having seen your journey from starting, as you say. I was going to have certain points that we were going to try and keep hidden, such as the fact I used to train you in first school, because that really ages me, wasn't it? Right. It was a high school, wasn't it? It was high school.
High school,
high school, not first. It's funny because I go out and people are like, "Oh, you used to train me at school." I'm like, "Please don't say first school." But it's an interesting journey that you've had. So you came into the gym, and it was predominantly kickboxing. That I was coaching, power kickboxing, which is what it's now called, and that's something that you got into, and as you say, you kind of veered away from the gym, but then came back in, and then you achieved your blue belt in power kickboxing. So could you tell us a little bit about how you began your martial arts and your training journey? So not just martial arts, but working out in general, just to give us the listeners, not the viewers as yet, an overview of what the steps that you took.
Yeah, so I suppose when I was 18 and I started training with you, I was just a skinny kid, but I knew then I had a bit of strength, you know. So then when I stopped sort of training kickboxing, I sort of lifting weights, you know. I was never massive, I was never huge, but I used to like lifting weights, and you know, like any kid of that age, you know, apparently size means everything, doesn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to be the biggest lad, you know, which I never was. And I sharp realised that it doesn't matter how big you are, but if you can learn to fight, then no matter what, whether it's on the street, whether it's on the in the ring, people will respect you, you know. And also, you know, I love it. I love the training. I love, you know, the feeling of fighting in the ring, everything about it, you know.
You mentioned there about you gain respect from fighting in the street, but could you tell us a little bit about your kind of progression from having that kind of viewpoint in a sense as you were younger, and then progressing through and what the training had done for you for the discipline side? And because I've seen you grow as a, you know, with all, you know, with due respect, as a man and as a person, as a great person of character and a role model to kids. But honestly, being completely honest, I mean, what in your own words and your own feelings, how did you see that progression or that change, perhaps, if there was one?
Maturity, I suppose. Yeah, you know, that's what it comes with, doesn't it? I'm certainly not condoning fighting on the street.
No, of course not.
You know, because it gets you nowhere.
It's an interesting point, though.
Yeah, it gets you absolutely nowhere.
For the younger men, particularly, or
definitely,
boys.
You know, it's all that bravado sort of thing when you're in your teens, your 20s. You know, you go out, especially when alcohol's involved, things can get messy, you know. But none of that's any good, you know. And I sort of figured out, especially from training with you, you know, that do it in the gym, you know, and you get more respect in the gym. And not even that, you meet good people, you meet friends. I don't think I've ever met, you know, a bad person from any gym anywhere, you know. Certainly not with regards to kickboxing and boxing. People just want to go give it everything and then sort of, you know, get on with the life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I suppose just maturing as a man, you know, and realising, I suppose doing everything in terms of my fight career, and I suppose going out and doing the partying side of things, you know, my teens and 20s, because you've got to think I'm 29 now. That was the next. I was going to ask you, just to let the guys know.
Yeah, girls, how old you are. 20.
But just so I'm 29 now, and I think in terms of boxing, I definitely think I'm in the 100% in the prime. You know?
Absolutely.
I certainly feel that. I feel strong, fit, you know, hungry. But you could also argue that that's maybe a bit late. You know, there's certain professional fighters out there, you know, by the age of 29, they might have had 15, 20 bouts, maybe more, you know, with a big sort of a long amateur career where they might have won.
That's a really important point.
Yeah, of course, you know, and I suppose I've never really had that. I got into it a bit later, 14 unlicensed fights. Yeah, I've done well, but I suppose all the time I'm just learning constantly, you know. So I suppose, going back to your earlier question, it's just sort of maturing a bit, you know, and just now realising what I really want from life, you know.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about, you just kind of touched on there, not so much having an amateur career, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit in a second about perhaps other fighters, certainly that I'm aware of, that have had these, you know, really deep and extensive amateur careers and then turn pro. But then there's some successful pros who haven't really had much of an amateur career. So I wanted to get your viewpoint on that in just 1 second. Our first sponsor is Luxfolio. Luxfolio Real Estate looks at real estate from a more creative perspective, offering a modernized service and approach to all of your real estate needs. Their services include buying, selling, renting, and leasing. They provide a world-class service that knows no limits and can service your property anywhere in Dubai. At Luxfolio Real Estate, you don't simply represent another buyer in the market. You are a priority and a part of a highly successful team. They can be found on Luxfolio at Facebook page and info@luxfoliorealestate.ae. That is info@luxfoliorealestate.ae. So we just talked there about fighters with extensive amateur careers. I'm just going to throw two from both ends, from those that I'm aware that have extensive amateur careers and those that don't, and perhaps the benefits of those. And I'd love to get your input as being an active professional fighter right now. Of course. So for me, Oscar De La Hoya is one of my all-time favorite fighters, and he had a very extensive amateur career. It was in the hundreds of fights. I can't remember his record exactly.
Unbelievable.
Hundreds and hundreds of amateur fights, and he won a gold medal at the 94 Olympics? I can't remember exactly. And then he turned professional, had an extensive professional career, won various world titles. I believe it was 5 or 6 different weights. It might have been more, because I haven't researched that specifically for this podcast. It's just come up now in conversation. And then another fighter who didn't really have much of an amateur career, from what I understand, the former heavyweight world champion Deontay Wilder didn't have much of an amateur career, although I think he did box. I think he did go into the Olympics and box, and I think he medalled, but he didn't have an extensive amateur career. I believe he won a bronze medal. Bronze medal, but he hadn't had hundreds and hundreds of amateur fights.
Definitely not.
And just lastly, and another one that's just come to mind, another contrast is the all-time fighters. I'm going to have to bring up Jack Dempsey. I always do in everything I talk about. Jack Dempsey, not the non-Pariel, but Jack Dempsey, William Harrison Dempsey, who was world champion. I believe he won the title, I think it was 1919. So he didn't have any amateur career, he just jumped in as a pro and learned the ropes as a pro, and hence losses and this type of thing. So what's your feeling on that, having not had that amateur background? What do you think, your viewpoint over that overall, but specifically, the benefits and the pluses and negatives of not having the amateur career, from your perspective?
I suppose maybe one benefit is, I suppose I haven't particularly taken that many punches, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So not that many miles on the clock. But if I sat and thought about it, I would probably maybe think there's probably more cons to it. Like I should have a bit more experience, a lot more experience, and I should maybe have done this, and I should maybe have done that. But then at the same time, I only judge myself on what I do. And I just know when I train.
That's good.
Turn back in the mic.
Yeah, just a fist. I'm doing that all. You tell me if I do it.
Will do. No. But certainly, I can judge myself on sparring. When I jump in with some tough lads, some amazing, really, good high level pros. And I would always say that I hold my own. I really would. So that tells me I'm doing something right, But every single day I tell myself I've got so much to learning all the time, Personally, I don't think I'll ever be the finished article, because I always want to achieve more and more and more. One thing I'm great at is listening and just, listening to whatever a coach says and doing it, doing it to the best of my ability. But, you can always look back, and I could always think I should have got into it earlier. I should have done this, should have done that, but I've just got to make do with everything now,
100%. There's a saying that the best time to plant a tree is either 10 years ago or today.
Yeah, exactly, man.
So
plant a tree today, to anyone who's thinking about it. Even people, who are older, thinking, oh God, I wish I could have, one fight, an unlicensed fight, whatever it might be, a kickboxing fight, MMA. And they might have put off for 10 years, 15 years. If they're still in good shape, just do it. Train for it, get in the ring, get it out of your system. I've got a good friend of mine, I think he was 52 when he had his first fight.
Wow.
It was like a boxing match, sort of charity one with head guards and big gloves. But, brilliant, man, he loved it, So why not?
Yeah. It's a journey, isn't it? You know, it's a
100%,
personal journey, I would say, rather than...
without a doubt.
Yeah.
It is a personal journey. And, you know, I just think life's too short. Mm-hmm. Life's too short for anything. Maybe it's not even fighting, you know, but just, you know, why hesitate? Don't hesitate, you know. Mm-hmm. Understand not everyone has the same mentality, do they? Some people like to just sit back, and other people like to go out there and grab it, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, me and you were certainly the latter, what I've described there, you know.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. I mean, so would I be right in saying that, you know, that essentially overcoming that personal fear to go and chase something that you want to do, whether it's fighting or, you know, starting your own business perhaps, or you know, or even, I don't know, you know, picking a course that you say a college course, or that you don't believe necessarily that you have you don't believe you have the confidence to do that, but it's something you're passionate about and you know something about, maybe to take the step and
of course,
and do it, you know. I mean, that's the only way you're going to find out, right?
And also ask yourself why you don't have the confidence to do it. Have people been saying, have people been telling you your whole life you can't do something?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, no one should tell anyone that they can't do anything, you know. Go out there and just do it. It's as simple as that, you know.
It's interesting because I think for me, from personal experience, and you know, when you're being constantly told that you can't do something, or you're not good enough to do something, or not good enough, period, that it can have one or two effects. Yeah. And it's either going to put fire under you, and that fire will never, or it's going to go the other way. Yeah. You know,
and it'd be interesting to know
break or make
how many people, you know, go which way and how many people go the other way. You hear of so many successful people saying, you know, I got told I couldn't do it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, in his documentaries, don't listen to the naysayers, that famous saying from him, you know. People putting him down, saying you couldn't act after bodybuilding and all that because you couldn't have the right accent. You know, he's one of the biggest movie stars in history, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and
you know,
politician as well.
But that would have spurred him on. Must have thought, I'm gonna prove people wrong, you know.
To come from, I think was it Graz? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it, Graz. I think that's the village he came from in Austria. Yeah, and to come from there in a small town in Austria, and then, you know, become, you know, the world's greatest bodybuilder, and then become the highest paid actor at the time, and then to become a governor of California, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, yes.
He could never be president because you have to be a native of the country. But just out of it, so kind of linking what we just talked about before. Could you tell us a little bit more about your personal psychology, your emotionality, and personal feelings to competing? So not just why you do it, but also your feelings leading up to it, and perhaps a little bit of an insight into why you do it. Yeah,
well, plain and simply, why I do it is because I love it. Genuinely love it, you know. So I love the whole aspect of it, boxing, competing. But then if you break it down, so do I love the training? Yes, 100%. Absolutely love it. It's like a drug, you know. You walk out the gym, you burn however many calories, you know. You just, you know, sweat it out 2 litres of water, whatever. You walk out, it's like you just feel high on life, you know. And I try and do that every day. I really do. And yeah, actual fighting, you know. It's just something else, you know. It's a rare thing. I think me and you once talked about this, didn't we? There's not many people in the world will actually experience it, you know. Because, like I said earlier, not everyone's a fighter. I totally understand that. I get that, you know. But actually competing, for those who are fighters, people, you know, actually competing in a ring, combat, going on, you know this guy who you're going to face, he's going to take your head off. He wants to hurt you really bad, so you've got to hurt him first, you know. You've got to get there first. And when you're in the ring, you know, those 2 minutes or those 3 minutes, literally you do not think about anything else in the world. It's just you and him. And that's a surreal feeling, isn't it? Because how, you know, in life, how, you know, can you say in any other aspect of life that you actually are 100% focusing on the moment? You've always got something else going on in your head, haven't you? You're thinking about this, thinking about that, you leave the toilet seat up, you put the rubbish out, you know,
the iron on.
Yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a surreal sensation, isn't it? And then, to top it off, the feeling of winning. The feeling of winning afterwards, when you've sold tickets, you've got your friends, your family there. It's just unbelievable. You know, it really is.
It's it is interesting, isn't it? I completely agree. It is something we've spoke about before, and it is one of the very few times, if any, in life where you're fully engaged and invested in that moment in time.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You know, we'll call it flow state or whatever you want to call it. It's almost like a religious experience because you're so engaged with the moment and you're so part of who you are or who you're meant to be. And it's
definitely you find out a lot about yourself, you know. And also even other sports. I mean, you know. I'm sure a lot of sports are very similar, but you know, even in football, when you're not on the ball, you know, for only a split second, you might be thinking about, oh, you know, did I put the bin out? I'll use that as an example again. You know what I mean?
Good one, yeah.
There's no point. I'm sure.
Did you put the bin out?
I don't know. Is it even bin day? I'm sure. I couldn't tell you.
Did you put the bin out and is it blue or black? It's even worse.
Oh, mate,
or green, perhaps.
You're making it complicated now.
Yeah. It's Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that infamous night out when we were climbing on the roof of the university trying to find a way in and pretend to be a foreign exchange student.
Well, sure, too wise, had you? Might get locked up.
But just before we mention that, I'd like to give our next sponsor a shout out, so we'll get that in just 1 second. Our sponsor is Skyline Loft Conversion. Skyline is a high-end loft conversion company who have over 30 years experience in this industry, with over 900 jobs completed as far, all to the most exclusive and highest possible standards. The company is a family-run business located in the northeast of England. From simple loft conversions to custom-built fitted wardrobes, they always to their specific needs. No need to look elsewhere, the sky truly is the limit. You can contact them on Facebook at Skyline Loft Conversions, and you can also find them on Instagram at Skyline Loft Conversions. It was the evening of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And we wanted to get and watch it, and it was myself, you, and Krzysztof Pomański. Cześć Krzysztof, because I'm learning
Shout out.
Shout out, cześć Krzysztof. Jak się masz?
Jak się masz? Bardzo dobrze.
Bardzo dobrze. Moje ulubiony sport, bieganie I siłownia.
Wow, I don't know what that means.
And my favourite sports are running and the gym.
Brilliant, mate.
You're welcome.
I see my Polish isn't as good as yours.
I'm getting there. I can count to 10 and do the days of the week, the whole deal, and we're starting to get there. So we wanted to watch, but it was a ticket-only deal. None of the clubs, you know, the clubs were showing it, and they're all ticket-only. We couldn't find a way, so we came up with this good idea. Well, somebody had mentioned that the university were showing it, so we ended up going up to the university. I think we had Krzysztof as a foreign language teacher. Was I? I can't remember. Were you a history teacher and I was
English?
Professor?
I think.
Oh, was I? We were professors of English, perhaps. I think it was.
I might have had a big long beard at the time.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. And we couldn't get in the door, so we ended up on the scaffolding, didn't we? On the roof, trying to find a way in.
Trying to find a satellite dish. I don't know what we're going to do with that.
Yeah, but then we ended up bombing down the A1, and I just want to specify very clearly that Krzysztof wasn't drinking. He wasn't drinking any alcohol at all. So we ended up driving down the A1, stopping at McDonald's on the way, and we had a bit of an issue at McDonald's because there had been a little bit
forever.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about that one. And then we ended up in a pub in, was it Long Horsley?
Long
Framlington. Sorry, and I just remember
Village Inn, shout out.
Yeah. Just give another shout out, please, mate.
Yeah, just the Village Inn, Long Fram.
Village Inn, yeah. And we ended up there, and I just remember like feeling really sick because I was so tired and falling asleep, kind of nodding my head at the bar, trying to watch the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, and I don't know, and I just remember, the next, it was 7 a.m. in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. Krzysztof started work at 9, and I just remember the three of us walking out the front door, you turning right, going down 2 doors at home.
I literally lived 3 doors up from the pub at the time.
So Matty went to bed. Krzysztof dropped me off at home. To be fair, I only had a 2 or 3 hours sleep. Then I was meeting my girlfriend at the time, but at least I got home and got some rest. Yeah. And Krzysztof got me finish it.
I played that one well, mate, didn't I? Oh, go back to this pub. Yeah, I'm sure it's got it on. Yeah, knowing fine well it's 7 in the morning when it finished. I just walk straight home.
And Krzysztof had to go do a double shift at work that day. I remember him texting me and saying it was definitely a Red Bull kind of day, that one. So for a person out there looking to begin training, whether it be martial arts, boxing, going to the gym, running, even taking up a sport that they're interested in, whether it be archery, kayaking, so forth. I mean, what would you recommend that they do? And even perhaps more specifically, perhaps there's a person out there that's wanting to go to the gym but they feel very self-conscious to do so, and they're putting it off, and they get to the point where I'm going to go, and then it gets closer, I'll do it next week. What words of encouragement or what would you recommend that they do to take that first initial step?
Do you know what it is? It's so easy to say, just do it, just go out and just do it, pick up the phone, speak to a coach, just walk into a gym. But for a lot of people, it's not that easy. So try and break it down a bit, Have you got a friend who's going to the gym? Speak to him. What's it like? Will you take us along with you? Online, give someone a message online now, your new website, you've got details there. Shout out, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to the website, www. I'll give you the full W's in a second.
But it's easy enough to drop you a message, and then you could send a few messages and maybe just give them that extra little bit of confidence that they need, to turn up. Personally though, I just went for it, reached out to you. There was a couple of us started. To be fair, there was me and a few other lads. So again, maybe get together with a group of friends, and then go to the gym, go to whatever boxing class or any sport. It doesn't really matter, because again, if you go in groups, it can make you a bit more confident, can't it? But I turned up, and then I think the other lads lasted about 2 weeks, didn't they?
Well, they maybe got I remember there must have been it wasn't just 2 or 3, there was maybe 8 of you. There was a big group of you guys who came along. And I do remember everybody was really keen and they wanted to learn all and that's the thing I certainly find with power kickboxing, which I believe to be one of the best striking arts out there. It's a great leveler. You said this before, you mentioned this before, you find out a lot about yourself, and you find out a lot 100%. About yourself in training as well.
Yeah.
And that isn't necessarily linked to sparring, for example, which can be considered the hardest or the most kind of anticipated part of it, perhaps the most fearful part of it, which doesn't have to be, but just the training itself. And not even the training itself. It's not just the hitting the pads or learning the techniques and getting them wrong, because you've got to be a fool before you can be a king.
Exactly.
And even the fitness that's required, because really the fitness that's required is just being able to walk there, because certainly with my classes you're required to be as good as you are and then progress. But I don't know how you feel about this, but the hardest part, and I think the reason why so many people drop off, is it's just walking out the front door. People lack the ability to go out the front door and turn up at a certain time.
Of course.
If it's a Tuesday at 6 and a Thursday at 6, for me personally, you make an appointment and you protect that time, because there will always be things that are going to get in the way.
Yeah.
And for me, what I've found is it's the lack of discipline and the lack of dedication, because there will always be a reason for you not to go. There's always going to be a reason for you not to go. So I believe you find a reason to go. And as Homer Simpson on The Simpsons would say, the only reason not to be there is if you're dead or if you're in jail. And if you're in jail, break out. What do you think about that?
Brilliant. Yeah. Love Homer's line.
Yeah, you got to go with that.
But yeah, I totally agree. You make time. It's as simple as that. You make time. I mean, there's, like you say, there's 1,000,001 reasons, why not to go. Putting the bin out. That's but you make time. And you just go for it. It's as simple as that. Getting out of your comfort zone is a massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially nowadays with
and it's 99% of people, I honestly think, don't, they're terrified. They don't want to get out of the comfort zone. They don't like to. At first, I didn't like to get out of my comfort zone. Now I love it. I push myself all the time. Because it's exciting, isn't it? It's still a bit nerve-wracking. It's a bit nerve-wracking still when I turn up to sparring.
Yeah, of course it is.
Because, you go in there, you fair enough, it's sparring, but it's a controlled fight, isn't it? And if you're sparring someone new, you're thinking, I didn't really want to let him get one over on us. He'd be thinking the same. So, you have that same feeling. Maybe he's not on the same level, but that same feeling as you do on fight day, And again, that is getting out your comfort zone. You know, messaging people to say, fancy some rounds this week? Yes, 100%, mate. See you at such and such a time.
And then turning up.
Yeah, because you know, you could easily make an excuse. Oh, sorry, mate, something came up tonight, or etc., etc. But you know, after it all, after I say that sparring session, you come away feeling amazing, you know. And it's not even just the rounds, getting that adrenaline out, you know, and learning, obviously, improving on your boxing all the time. It's sitting around for half an hour after, talking to the lad you've just, you know, punched in the face, because you get that respect, you know. You get, that's another thing that comes with boxing and training. Respect, you know, it's massive. You know, your opponent gives it to you, and you give it to him. It's earned, you know. It's earned, isn't it?
It's interesting, you know, and earning anything nowadays is maybe frowned upon to an extent in some areas, and as you say, earning respect. I mean, just briefly, I remember when I fought Mike Nevitt for the IKF World Title the first time. We did 12 rounds together, and he certainly, you know, he won the fight fair and square because I didn't have experience, but I did the 12 rounds, and it was tough. He was a very tough guy and a very hard puncher. But then we had a rematch, I think it was 3 or 4 years down the road, and you know, I had a great amount of love and respect for him, and he did me, and it was kind of funny because we couldn't share that until after the second fight. But it bonds you because, you know, I'm paraphrasing this. This isn't my saying, but you share your soul in a sense, don't you? With another man, you know, you find out about each other. Maybe you never find out about other people in most areas.
Without a doubt, and you know what it is. I think top and bottom of it is he's prepared to die in there, and so are you. You know, if you're not, you shouldn't be in there. It's as simple as that. But those people get found out, you know. The people who aren't prepared to die, they get found out, and they don't last, you know. But the genuine fighters who are prepared to die in that ring, you know, how can you not respect that from someone else? And the training, if you know someone else has trained just as hard as you know, how can you not respect that?
I'd just like to talk about one of our other main sponsors, AIM Leisure. AIM Leisure was established in 2016 as a fashion sportswear brand and has developed to be a well-respected wholesale supplier of trend-led quality uniform and promotional clothing, both to boutique gyms and sports clubs, using UK manufacturing facilities and an entirely British supply chain for raw materials. You can contact them on www.aimattheleisure.com. That is www.aimattheleisure.com. AIMATHLEISURE.com, and you can also find them on Instagram at AIM Leisure, and that is AIM AIM Leisure. Okay, so the next question is really, life as well as the martial arts is designed to be tough. Okay, so I'm kind of rephrasing the question. So life and the martial arts or your combat arts, let's say, are designed to be tough. What has that taught you?
It's taught me to appreciate, and I mean this genuinely, especially, you know, I suppose going back to when I was younger, you know, I didn't really have a care in the world, you know. But now I really do just appreciate every day. Everyone has off days, you know, we're human beings, aren't we? But I appreciate where I live, I appreciate my friends, certainly my family, you know, people close to me. And just with regards to training and boxing, just give it everything, you know, absolutely everything. Just train as hard as you can. It's as simple as that, you know. I don't know if I could put it any more bluntly, you know.
I wanted to ask you, I'm going to ask our next guest the same question. It's actually about the fight this Saturday. We've got Jorge Masvidal, the Game Bred, and he's been brought in as a late night for Usman. Kamaru Usman. So and it's for the world title.
Yeah.
So
Is that welterweight?
Yes, it's welterweight. Now, again, this isn't something I've done research for, so I don't want to. So, just for the viewers the listeners out there, the weight divisions with boxing and UFC are very different. So, for example,
it's massive difference.
Yeah, massive difference. Oh, it's a huge difference. So middleweight in boxing is 160 pounds. Correct me if I'm wrong. 160 pounds, which is 12 stone dead.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Whereas middleweight in mixed martial arts is 186 pounds. So there's quite a big difference.
It's a massive difference.
Yeah. I mean, my weights. I'm more up on my weights in boxing, and I do them out. So middleweight's 160, super middle's 68, light heavy 75, and then there's a with a huge jump in cruiser. Then it goes up to 200. It used to be 190, then up to 200, and that's a 25-pound division, which seems huge to me. Whereas, as I say, I mean, the mixed martial arts, I believe it is welterweight, and I think. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure people will. I believe the welter is it 70?
170.
Is it 170? Yeah, or 71, something like that.
Lightweight was 145, wasn't it? Featherweight was 145. Lightweight was 155. So then from 55 to 70, that's a massive jump, isn't it?
It's another big jump. But I believe, and again, I haven't got my research together. I've obviously, been in the martial arts for 30 years, so excuse me on this one. But I believe that there's 8 divisions in the UFC, but there's something like 15 in boxing. There's a lot of weight divisions in boxing. I certainly think they should introduce either a super light heavyweight, but I'm sure the purists out there would shout me down. But yeah, so from what we understand, it's a welterweight combat. Now, Masvidal, I've followed. He follows me actually on Instagram, and his trainer Paula Hernandez does. I'm sometimes messaging me. Actually, take the time to message me back,
follow me,
which is pretty cool. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Masvidal. I've followed him since Miami, the Hustle days. I think he's a fantastic mixed martial artist, one of the best strikers, if not the best striker in the UFC.
He's a beast.
He is, and he's great. He's jiu-jitsu is, he does practice grappling. He's not a jiu-jitsu player by any means, but his grappling is good enough to get him out of positions. However, and he's very experienced. Usman's obviously wrestling is his big kind of his big, I suppose, chest of gold. That's what he's known for. Now, I haven't seen the Colby fight actually. He fought Colby Covington, who I'm a fan of actually. I think Colby's great at what he does. Although Masvidal is my guy. They used to be friends. Obviously, they're no longer. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you may have. Did you see the Masvidal? The Colby and Usman fight, the Covington Usman fight? Have you watched that?
Probably not. No.
Well, what I understand is it basically it ended up being a kickboxing fight. They stood up and they were just struck each other because they're both very good high level wrestlers. So it's almost as if they didn't want to wrestle with one another because they respected each other's ability so much that they're just striking. Now, from what I understand, certainly what people are telling me is that Masvidal's going to struggle with Usman's wrestling ability. But my perspective on it is, first of all, it's not like Masvidal's never seen a wrestler before. I would say, secondly to that, he used to train with Colby Covington, and yes, Colby did seem to get the better of him in the wrestling, but he knows his way around that. And then lastly, in Masvidal's, not his last fight, but the fight before Diaz, he fought Askren, and I like Askren.
Ben Askren,
and he blasted Askren out in essentially 3 seconds.
Looks like a skateboarder, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? I like Askren though. I think he's got some good crack.
He's a bit different, isn't he? He looks like he should have a surfboard.
Funky Askren, yeah, I love it, man.
California.
But the thing with Askren is, I would argue he's a better wrestler than Usman and Colby. I would argue that point. And the wrestling, purists out there can I would certainly defer to their knowledge. And I don't expect for 1 second that Usman's going to get taken out with a flying knee. But for me, it's like, Askren, it wasn't like he just came in from a wrestling. He had an extensive MMA experience, granted not in the UFC. I think was he Strikeforce or one champion. So my question is, what do you feel for it? I mean, do you feel Masvidal? Do you feel Usman? Or do you care? Because you're boxer, striker, you haven't.
Do you know what it is? I do. Yeah, I really enjoy the UFC.
Yeah,
definitely.
And your feelings on the UFC in general?
I'm not as clued up as you, but I can certainly appreciate. I just remember Masvidal. Do you remember when we started? First got his bit of fame. He was on the sort of Kimbo Slice street, like back garden street fights. Back in like the early noughties, I think.
Yes,
when we're probably still on dial-up internet.
Yeah, like we are here, hence we're not going live.
But Kimbo Slice was a sensation, wasn't he? But then this Masvidal kid, he had like sort of long hair. He came in, he was an absolute beast. And now he's an absolute professional athlete. He's an animal.
Yeah.
And I think he carries himself well as well.
I agree completely.
You know, I do.
He speaks truth.
100%. You know, and as a fan, I would prefer him. I would like him to win. You know? I'd like to see him. Smash it up.
Well, are you going to go, because I'm taking bets against anybody betting against Masvidal. I put a post on Facebook, but I said maximum of 4 people. There's not been 400 people betting a $5 each out of me.
So do you want me to bet for Usman then?
Just if you want to. I'm starting to worry now. I've got
just for bet's sake.
I've got one £5 bet with somebody, but I'm going to put 30 on Masvidal to stop Usman.
I'm
going to pick a stoppage.
I just think these last few fights he's looked an absolute beast. He's looked unstoppable.
Yeah,
you know.
He seemed to get the measure of everybody as well, and he's fought such different people. I think he last correct me if I'm wrong, to Wonder Boy, who I was signed to fight at one point in the pro kickboxing. That's another story. Yeah, I'd signed to fight Wonder Boy, man. Back in the kickboxing days. I've still got the emails actually going back and forth. I'll have to send them to you. But I never met Wonder Boy because the fight never happened. We were signed to fight in California for the originally in Chicago and then California for the IKF World Full Contact Kickboxing title. But Masvidal, I know he lost to Wonder Boy, but I believe he's progressed since then, and he's just fought so many different styles, and he's been in it for nearly 2 decades now. You
definitely.
know, so
the Diaz fight, I mean, should that have been stopped in your opinion?
From what I saw, I would say yes, because I think it was such a terrible cut that then you're starting to question, you know, it's fair enough. For me personally, yes, because, you know, all it took is, remember, you can elbow, you're not just punching, and a punch might have torn it worse, but then you're talking about eyes starting to drop out, and, you know, it's not worth losing your left side forever.
Diaz, he's the scar tissue around his eye sockets, the top of his eye, the bottom, his whole face. As soon as he gets touched, man, it just opens up, doesn't it?
Yeah. The worst cut I've ever seen was Vitaly Klitschko against Lennox Lewis.
Unbelievable.
That was a great fight.
Very interesting, that, wasn't it? Because that was his last fight, Lewis. And you know, the first 5 rounds, he looked tired, didn't he?
Lewis did.
Lewis did, you know, and maybe he's thinking himself, he's showing his age a bit, you know.
Definitely, he said that afterwards.
Is he going to lose on his last fight? But then obviously, you know, he caught him with a brilliant shot, cut his eye, and then he just done his best to just open that up the best he could. And fair stoppage. Absolutely, fair stoppage. Couldn't 100%. See. It's dangerous, isn't it? You know, you could go blind at the end of the day.
It's not worth losing your eye for, you know. Well, I just want to get a few final words from you. We're coming towards the end of this section, but just before I do, we're going to get your final thoughts in just 1 second. So our guest sponsor for this episode is growyourself.uk. Grow Yourself is a website and online blog created to reach out to others who maybe experience any sort of mental illness, suffering, or anyone who wants to create a more happy and healthy lifestyle. This features tips and ideas on how to maintain a healthier and more balanced lifestyle, whilst also writing more about serious and complex issues. For more information to grow yourself and those around you, go to www.growyourself.uk or on Instagram at Beatrice_WGLANVILL. And I hope I spelled that correctly because I didn't pronounce it. So just a few final words and thoughts, anything that you want to talk about, anybody you want to thank, or anybody you want to, or anything at all you want to say, or just obviously promoting your next fight as well, and how people can find you on Instagram, Facebook, and social media, etc. And just anything else you want to add.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my next fight, that's at the Utilita Arena. Formerly the Metro Radio Arena.
Utilita,
yeah. That's 17th of October. It's on the Lewis Ritson card. Should be an absolute fantastic event. It was meant to go ahead in April, but obviously due to current circumstances, COVID, all of this, nothing's went ahead, has it? You know, it's scuppered everything. So hopefully they're predicting Eddie Hearn saying full crowd. Let's see if it happens. Hopefully it will. But yeah, that's what we're working towards, at the moment. So yeah, tickets, hit me up for tickets.
How can they contact you for tickets?
Facebook, Instagram. Give my Instagram page a follow, Matt Stark McCallum. Or again, Facebook. Got a Facebook boxing page as well, Matt McCallum Boxing. So
I was offered my biggest fan badge on that the other day. So
oh really?
yeah. Asked me if I wanted a biggest fan badge. So
awesome, mate. How did you get one of them? Did you just
well, it picks you out as being one of. It says it automatically comes up on Facebook. It says you've been pitched essentially as one of the biggest fans of this page.
Some boy
get your fan badge. Or
yeah,
something,
I think I've only got like 4 people following it.
Well, I'm certainly giving you the most likes and things.
Oh, brilliant, mate! Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, listen, Matthew. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out. I know your busy schedule. Good luck.
Thank you for having us. Honestly, James, it's been fantastic. Yeah.
Wonderful, man.
Yeah, and obviously, I think this is a great thing that you're doing, and I hope it becomes a regular thing, and you just you get more and more of a following. So I'll certainly share it on my social media, and
thank you.
Share it word of mouth to my friends, etc.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, listen, we'll be rooting for you on your next fight, which is definitely. The 17th of October.
Yeah, you'll be there. Didn't turn up late this time.
Yeah,
to be fair, it wasn't your fault.
I like to make an entrance.
That wasn't your fault.
Well, you know what it is Matty's ring name. Well, it's the Wolf now, isn't it? Because
it's both. Right,
got you. But you wear like a wolf's. A what would you call it? Not a mask, but like
a sort of wolf head mask.
Yeah, and come in with but I was making a suggestion that you could either perhaps next time ride a wolf into the ring, or perhaps like have a full zip up wolf suit that you could just kind of zip yourself out of and step out of. I think that would be interesting.
It would be interesting, I mean, the whole
we'll build up to that.
It was the Game of Thrones sort of theme, wasn't it? Massive Game of Thrones fan.
Yes.
That's where Matt Stark came from. It was just a bit of a laugh at first, and then 14 fights later. Right, not doing too bad here. People,
14 fights, no losses.
Yeah, 12 knockouts. So yeah, and then carrying on to the pro game, I thought may as well, try and make a bit of a, not a gimmick, but for example, Joe Law's Northeast boxer, he wears this Mexican wrestler's mask and he comes out with a sombrero on. People like it, it's catchy, People go away and they think, oh, did you see that lad fight the other night, did you watch him? He was interesting, So that's exactly what I want to do, At the end of the day, it's an entertainer's game, isn't it? You've got to go out there and you've got to make a little bit of noise. So
well, we know you're going to do that on the 17th. So again, thank you for being our guest tonight. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Cheers.
And we'll keep an eye on you. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Thank you.
Cheers.